I'm not an end of life doula. I'm a middle of life doula. I'm a beginning of life doula. While there's still runway left to make the changes you need to make, you can still make it now and then get excited about the rest of that runway.
Hey, journeyers. Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Karen Salmansohn. She's a best-selling author and leading behavioral change expert, psychological strategies with bold humor. With over 2 million books sold and courses sold, she has helped countless individuals shake off autopilot and start living with intention. Her new book, Your to Die for Life, How to Maximize Joy and Minimize Regret Before Your Time Runs Out, challenges readers to rethink their relationship with mortality, not as something to fear, but as an ultimate motivator for living boldly and authentically. Welcome to the podcast, Karen.
Great to be here.
So, Karen, I love talking about this, about just the inner work and mindset and just I like to say intangible things that make our life, because my show typically, we talk about money, but ultimately the people who listen, journeyers, I call them, want to reach financial independence. They want more autonomy, they want happiness, and they're using money, and they want to use money as a tool to get there. And I always say that's great, and there's a lot of tangible things you need to do with money, but a lot of it for me, while I'm on my journey still, stems from the inner work, the mindset, the habits, and making a life happy and livable as you are, whether you're in debt or everything's not the way you want it. And so I thought your topic and what you talk about would be perfect to share with my audience, just because I want people to learn how to be happy now and live their life without regrets today, without all the conditions. So I just want to basically give you the floor to talk about why this topic, especially with this latest book, is so important to share with people now.
Sure. Well, I get into this in a lot of different ways that might be refreshing for you to hear, because my book is about death, actually. It's about the benefits of mortality awareness, what happens when we just wake up to the truth that our lives here are impermanent. And I believe that mortality awareness is not morbid, it's motivating, because mortality awareness creates urgency, and urgency creates action. So in my book, I have people think about how they want to feel on their deathbed, and then reverse engineer what they have to do now to get to become aspirational deathbed you, so to speak. And I actually talk about money in the book, because what I tell people is, I mentioned some philosophies in there from Aristotle, who I have I have a platonic crush on Aristotle. I love what he had to say. And he said that we should begin all projects with the ends in mind. Everything from something small like a bake sale to something large like that gigantic project for your life, called your life. And he says that no matter who you are in this world, we all have the same end goal for our life. And that is to learn lessons that help us to grow into our highest potential self. And if you do that and have that focus, if that's your deathbed goal focus, and you aim yourself there, then you will be what I jokingly call good in deathbed, But he said the reason why so many people are unhappy is they have the wrong end goal for their lives. They think it's to become the richest person on this planet, the person with the best designer clothes on this planet, the sexiest person on this planet, the person with the most YouTube likes, the most podcast followers on this planet. And he says that if you make that your end goal for life, then you're going to be mightily disappointed when you're on your deathbed. You're going to realize you chased the wrong rabbits. So that's thing number one that I talk about in my book, but I talk about a lot of different things. But I'll start off there, and then I'll give you room to ask me questions. But I got more.
Yeah. No, that's a great start. I mean, I think thinking about mortality, and you talk about something called a near life experience,
Yes,
and that
yeah,
people should live that. So, what is a near life experience? And can you give us an example of how we should be thinking of
sure,
that?
sure. Well, And near, I wrote the book for two reasons. One of them is more like quirky, and that's the near life experience. So I'll tell you that first, then I'll tell you the second reason. So, in the very front of the book, I say that I did not write this book because I had a near death experience. I had a near life experience. And if guys, and if you never heard of that before, it's because I made it up. But even though I made up the term, I think a lot of people will relate to it. It's about where you're on autopilot or you're on your phone so much that you're not fully in your life. You're near your life adjacent. It's a near life experience. Or you're with like your loved ones, but your mind is kind of racing to some fear about the future or to some regret about the past. And again, you're not fully in your life. You're life adjacent. Or you keep putting things off till someday. Someday I will. Someday I will. So you're not in your present life. You're in someday land. And so and then this brings me to the second reason why I wrote the book. I wrote the book after my dad died. And when he died, it was a wake up call that this death thing is real. Like, it's amazing how we're in so much death denial. We're built like that. There's something called terror management, which is about the fact that we don't like to really accept that we are going to die one day. And when you have a very close loved one pass, it wakes you up to the truth of the impermanence of your life. And from that, it snaps you out of autopilot. It makes you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have like endless tomorrows. I don't have like a surprise bonus pack of an extra 700 years stored in a drawer. This is it. This is our life. And it's up to us we're here, then we're not. And it's up to us to make the here part as meaningful as possible.
So,
So,
yeah, how do you know if you are in that mode? Is it a feeling? Is it results in your life look a certain way? Because I often find, especially with this access to social media, that while I feel like I do a lot, I'm active, I think, in my life in a lot of ways, that, I find myself, like what you just said, maybe scrolling, kind of dissociating a bit, not feeling super excited all the time about things, which I don't think we're supposed to feel excited all the time. But how do you know if it's normal to kind of check out sometimes? It's fine versus, wait a second, this is actually something I'm not fully living the life I say I want to live, and how do you change that?
okay, well, first of all, you sense it because you feel like there's like this low level hum of meh. You just feel like, is this all there is? Like, meh. And sometimes it's worse than meh. I mean, sometimes it's depression or anxiety or anger. Something is there and it's there persistently. And you realize, I am not happy with my life, or repeated patterns of pain because you don't, or you keep putting things off to someday because you think there's going to be a someday and you're not doing what you have to do now. You don't have a feeling of passion and excitement for your life. And it's possible to have that if, we don't, a lot of times we don't do things unless we have a deadline. And as soon as that deadline starts coming up, then we're like, okay, got to write that term paper. Well, death is the ultimate deadline, and it's one that we can't like beg our way out of, like, please, it's coming whether you like it or not. And when you accept that, then you start to get braver. You start to want to live more authentically. You start wanting to take more chances because you realize your fear of failure looks like nothing compared to the fear of having regret if you don't take chances.
So I totally understand that. I think the idea, so there's a couple things that I want to bring in now, because for many on the journey, which we all are, whether we know it or not, with our finances and specifically financial independence, this idea that you never have to work again unless you want to. Work is optional. And I know I started that journey because I wasn't happy with my current life or my current work situation, and I know I needed money to make things work. And so I figured out how to manage my money. And so while I'm at a great place financially, I think for most people, like, the unhappiness like I felt in the moment was because I didn't like my external, environment or pressures of what that was, like driving to work, going to work, and all those things. But even now on the other side where I'm not financially independent, but I have more flexibility and options, there's still things that come along with being an entrepreneur, or even if you like have all the money in the world, people are still not necessarily happy. And so I really urge people and want people to find that sense of happiness no matter where they are on the journey. And it not be just about like paying off debt or money. Like how do you get that in your life
Okay.
today? Yeah. So
I actually write about this in the book.
yeah.
So, first, I want to tell you a study, a research study, I think is so pertinent for everything that you're talking about. Uh, what does death and money, how do they coalesce? Well, there was a research study that they helped people to think about their future self and let them know that they have a future self, because most of the time we're just walking around thinking this is me, and we don't really think that there's a future self out there that is counting on current us not to be idiots with our money, that our future self is depending on us to be smart about our lives and our money. So they did a research study where they took a group of people, two different groups. One group they used a face aging app with, where they had them see what they looked like when they were like 97 years old, with the wrinkles and the great everything, the whole works. And then the other group, they didn't do that. And the group that faced their future selves, their like deathbed selves, and really became very aware there's this older them that's depending on them, wound up saving their money more. It was as if there was like some time machine that the future them was coming back, tapping young them on the shoulder and say, hey, don't be a fool. Don't waste our money. So there's power in thinking about deathbed you and future you. So I wanted to get that out there because I think that study is very relevant for you. Next, there are the strategies to enjoy your life now, which I write about in the book. I have people write their eulogies. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's like kind of like creepy crawly. So to take the creepy crawly out of it, in my book, I have a template with fill in the blanks of, of a template for a eulogy that you can use, like a Mad Libs kind of a thing. So it makes it easier. It makes it even fun. And I'm going to tell you and your listeners a little spoiler alert from the book that a lot of these blanks have to do with core values. And then what I have people do is they look at current you versus aspirational eulogy you. And you think, okay, what are the habits that I have to do to become aspirational eulogy me? What are the bridge habits? And how do I enjoy my life now? Well, this is how. So what I have people do is create what I call a to-die list, which is different than a to-do list. And I believe that to-do lists have a fatal flaw. They're just about productivity. And you could do everything on your to-do list and be miserable where you are now and have tons of regrets by the time you're on your deathbed. Because the goal of life is not to be super busy and productive. The goal of life is to live with meaning and love and joy. And we need that in our present lives. We need that. And we'll do better in our jobs and everything like that. So I have a range of exercises around this idea. And I say that people have to not only write their to-do list, they have to write their to-die list, which is sort of like a to-do what matters most list. And what I have people do is you look at your eulogy, or you can look at your present life if you don't want to write your eulogy, and say, who do I need to become to get everything I want in my life? Or who do I need to become to, and then you say, to be happier, to stop fighting with my partner, to have a deeper relationship with my son? Who do I need to become to stop and or start, like whatever is your goals? And then there's a core value at the answer. And the reason why core values are so important to changing your life is your identity is your destiny. Who you think you are is what you wind up doing. Your identity is the puppet master for your habits. So right now, if you walk around thinking, even something like I am poor, you're going to do the habits of a poor person, or I am, successful, you're going to do the habits of a successful person, or confident, or strong, or determined, or organized, or kind, or loving, whatever it is, you will do those habits. And you're probably doing them now on an unintentional basis where you're thinking like, I am messy, and then you're going to be messy. So you have to be intentional about your core values. And then you create what's called what I called an I am and so I do statement. So for example, one of my top core values is loving. Okay. And here's how you could use the to-die list. So I have this very wonderful friend who I've known forever. I live in New York. She lives in Connecticut, and she was having a birthday party. And I don't drive anymore because I let my driver's license expire living in New York. It's so funny. There's like a Sex and the City episode about this, and I am so those women, and when it comes to my driver's license at least. Like they went to LA, none of them had driver's license anymore. So I thought, oh, well, I guess I can't go to Danielle's birthday party. It's too hard to get to Connecticut. And then I thought about my core value because I value meaningful relationships. That's in my eulogy because I've really thought hard about what I want my life to be about. And meaningful relationships are very big on my eulogy. So I wrote, I am loving, and so I find a way to get my tush to Connecticut, right? So when you write your core value next to your habit, what happens is it reminds you of who you want to be, and it creates what's called cognitive dissonance if you don't do it. Like, oh my God, I'm not going to plan to go to Connecticut. Wait, I'm not loving? Like, it makes you think, wait, I am loving. I will find a way. And it kind of is an accountability buddy to try to get you to do it. And so I recommend people create these identity-based statements. And then you write it down each day, and you could think about them. You could vary what's on your to-do list based on that, based on who you want to be, the kind of life you want to live. And that can help you to make sure you're happy in the now. And also overcome some of your challenges money-wise, too. You could apply the whole formula to how to get out of a bad money situation as well with identity-based habits.
And do you have a recommended, because core values, I mean, we can give some examples too, like loving, some of my
Oh,
core
yes.
values,
Yeah.
like you just mentioned, but some of my core values are autonomy and freedom and all these things, right? So, like, what are some other examples
Yeah.
just so people get the idea rolling?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
because when you start to list them, all of them are going to sound really good to me, right? So, and
Yeah.
a lot of people, so it's like I can have like 10, 15, 20 values, but how do you select the core ones that, and can they change? I know it changed for me over time. And how does that work?
Yeah, I think they should change over time. It's sort of like if you go to the gym and you only do the running machine. No, you want to do the running machine. You want to do some free weights, some sit-ups, some push-ups. You want the whole full body workout. So you want the whole soul and character building workout. So I do have, I think it's seven. Yeah, seven core values that I recommend. And I figured these out because I looked at the top regrets of the dying. And I thought, oh my gosh, how do I reverse engineer the top regrets of the dying so I don't make them my regrets? Like, what do these people need to embrace core value wise to like slather themselves with regret resistant sealants so they don't get these same core values at the end of their lives? So some of the top core values, first, the problems of people that when they're on their deathbeds, the things that they realize that they have regrets about are, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish that I had been more intimate, vulnerable, higher communicators with my friends. I wish I'd been more myself. I wish I'd had some, purpose or active service in my life. These are sort of like the common denominator ones. So I looked at those, and these are the core values that you need. Okay. And by the way, one of my first core value is authentic. So you have to pick the core values that are true to you So these are just sort of like the starter kit ones, but I want people, I loved autonomy. I love the ones that you said. But these are if you have like writer's block about what your core values are, or you just want to tickle your brain a little like, oh yeah, I could use those. So here they are. First one is, oh, and they're in alphabetical order, so they're easy to remember. A is authentic, because a lot of people wish that they had lived truer to themselves. So B is brave. This one, oh my gosh. If you're stuck in your comfort zone, you're going to have a lot of regrets when you're on your deathbed. A lot of things that people are proud about in their lives are the times that they were brave. C is curious, and you need this one because, as Aristotle said, the purpose of life is to learn lessons that help you to grow into your highest potential self. And if you're stuck in a pattern of pain, you have to get curious. Well, why am I doing this? Is there some sort of gain in my pain here? What did I learn in my childhood? How can I let go? Why did they act that way to me? You need curiosity. And plus, curiosity gives you wonder and awe. So curiosity is a big one. D is discerning because, people say life is short, but a lot of it is we don't have time to do things in our day, and we're like not prioritizing. We have a lot of crap and clutter in our lives. Like, I didn't have time to do that is sort of like the adult version of the dog ate my homework. Because if you really know what your priorities are, know what your core values are, you will get rid of the crap and clutter. And I help people in my book to do that. But to go on with my core values. So D is discerning. E is empathic love. So I put the word empathic in front of love for two reasons. One is I needed an E word because I was determined to get it into, alphabetical order. But when I thought of it, I thought I love the idea of empathic love versus love because I didn't want to just make it love and make people think it's like romantic or confuse it with like chemistry and everything. And empathic love is the love where you really want to listen and understand, active listening and trying to really understand the other person and try to adjust your behavior for them. That's empathic love, and that's the best love. F is fun. And yes, that's a core value because a top regret of the dying is I wish I hadn't worked so hard. So you need balance in your life. You need fun. And, you definitely just, those are going to be the memories on your deathbed as well. And then G is gratitude, because gratitude is a great antidote to anxiety and stress and all of that helps you to move forward and appreciate where you are now, even if you are trying to improve your life in some way. So those are my favorite core values that I recommend as a startup kit.
Yeah, and what those have all in common is some, depending on if you want to make them like fun and like expensive type of fun, it can be. But there's
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
things you can figure out how it's not, tied to money. Like a lot of what you said are like what you can do for free. It's like the inner work. It's that inner journey. I talk about also in my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, where there's that inner job that needs to be done that really helps you become the happy person overall. Not necessarily every single minute of the day, but overall, where the balance is skewed more to like a fulfilled life.
Yeah, happiness studies even say that money can't buy you happiness, dot, 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 unless you use it to buy experiences. It's the experiences, going on a vacation, because those are building memories and emotional connections with people, having meaningful relationships and meaningful experiences. So if you're going to like splurge on something, it's best to splurge on something that gives you like a high return on your investment with the people that you love, or like something that grows you and stretches you, a vacation somewhere, something like that, than just designer shoes.
I know, we talked about thinking about death and, having that hopefully be a motivating factor to getting things done or at least stepping into the life we want to live. Is there something to be said for, because when I think about how short life is or death, it actually,
Yeah.
I mean, I get more, I don't want to say anxious, but
Oh,
I do get this sense of, oh my God, what's the point? Right? Like, I think I love, like, my life is so full. I have small kids, and so they keep us busy. And, sometimes you can even look back years, like pictures from 2, 3 years ago, you realize how fleeting and fast things are. And then, you look forward. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all going so fast. and and so sometimes I think similar to how people think about money in some ways, where like this YOLO, you only live once, you're gonna die anyway. What, like, so why? Sometimes it's like, why not just like live, not necessarily destructively, but not to be so
Right.
responsible. One, and two, but what is the point of doing all the right things? Because none of this really matters. We're just like a blip in the universe.
Okay. The old blip argument, huh?
Yeah.
Well, in my book, I cover this. It's like you're giving me like a good ping pong move. I could just hit that one right back at you. First of all, I have a whole chapter in the book about God's soul. Like, do you believe in the soul or the core self? Do you believe that this is our one shot? Do you believe that there's more shots at this? And I come down to, I'll give you another spoiler alert. It almost doesn't matter if you believe in a soul and reincarnations or if you believe this is our one shot. Either way, what will bring you the deepest level of joy, that's called fulfillment, is doing things that help you to grow into your highest possible self. That actually, there's studies around this, and studies that say that being more working towards your ideal self. And in the book, I talk about an Aristotle philosophy, which is also a Stoic philosophy, if people love Stoicism and they're not as familiar with Aristotle. And that is that Aristotle said that the reason why a lot of people are unhappy is that they confuse pleasure for happiness. And pleasure is about hit and run joy. And it feels good in the moment, it's impulse directed. But it's more what I call the enjoy now, struggle more later option. And happiness, which is in Aristotle's language, eudaimonia, is more the struggle now, enjoy more later option. And in fact, there's studies about people that are parents, which I'm a parent too, that we report having like more stress and all of that, but we have, like, with that comes more fulfillment. And so a lot of the things that bring you long-term joy, long-term happiness, instead of the fleeting hedonism, it's the struggle a little now, grow more later. And I think that people feel that life is just supposed to be, or the secret of a great life is to just hang out in the den of pleasure all the time. But the true meaningful life is it's den of pleasure and laboratory for growth. You can't spend all your time here in the den of pleasure. You have to wander into the laboratory of growth and do the work. And that's where you're going to get the deepest fulfillment and the deepest meaning. And if people are feeling, is that all there is? That's because you don't have purpose in your life. And I believe the purpose of your life is to find and do the purpose in your life. And in fact, Carl Jung says something really interesting about this, which I'm going to share. I love this.
Yeah.
He talks about how we all need to be happy. We all need a high level spiritual quest, purpose, something that drives us. And probably this podcast is a high level spiritual quest for you, having purpose. And it could be kids, it could be anything. But he says, if you do not have a high level spiritual quest, you will develop a low level spiritual quest in the form of drama and conflict and addiction and all of these things, where you have a driving force that's driving you towards something, but it's low level. And that's why a lot of people get stuck in the drama and the conflict and all of that, because they don't have a high level spiritual quest. And in fact, a great way to break free, or to start the break free process, because sometimes it's not easy, from a low level spiritual quest, is to set your eyes on a higher level goal and get yourself excited about that. And that will help you to break free from that, and will make you feel like, I'm here for a reason. Let's go. Let's make it 100 years. I only get 100, please. Can I get 200? It will give you that sense of, I am so excited to be here. My life has meaning and purpose.
And what I suspect can be happening for a lot of people now is, if they don't have it, they don't know what their high level goal or quest is like, how do I find that? How do
Yes.
I know what I'm doing is that?
Well, in my book, I'm sorry, I'm picking a lot of sentences with that because I write about this. I love talking about this too, as you can tell, because I'm just going on and on because I love this whole topic. So in my book, I have prompts to help you to figure that out. But I also say that part of the problem is that in today's world, we're on our phones so much that we're not in touch with whatever you want to call it, soul or core self. And we have to know who we are on the inside. So we need more time for contemplation. We need more quiet time. And I have a lot of prompts that help you to get in touch with that. And there we go again with our core values. A is for authentic and B is for brave. This is how you can start to not only figure out what is your purpose, but also to make sure that you're doing it. I am authentic, and so I do painting because that's my authentic thing. Or I am brave, and so I, write comedy acts and do stand-up comedy, whatever it is, or I am empathically loving, and so I give to charity or I get involved with a cause that's near and dear to me. A lot of the time, the purpose for what people do is from their wound. They turn their pain into their purpose. And then that helps because it loosens up your grip on bitterness and resentment because you're getting something good out of it. You see the gift, you see the assignment in your pain, and you feel like you're helping others. And so it helps to make your life feel like it's making sense.
That makes sense. I thought you were actually going to say when you said that while it's great if you can turn pain into purpose and use that as, to help others and to heal yourself, that using that or holding on to that or doing that too much is actually maybe somewhere where you're not letting go, right? Or I can see how that can be destructive for someone, or they're focused on, instead of like the happiness, like they're trying to fix
Uh,
something that
well,
they can't
using
control.
if they're using it to heal others. But also, you should know, Aristotle was the guy who coined the idea of everything in moderation, and he even talks about wealth that way. He says wealth is important to be able, in his day, he even said, to be able to do certain things, but everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. He even thought kindness should be in moderation because you don't want to be a doormat, so yeah, everything. And that includes even how much focus you give to turning your pain into purpose. You want to have a balanced life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing you discuss in your work is the power or the role of fear in pushing people. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, like the fear of not accomplishing or living up to your truest self, and that awareness causes action. And it's funny because I went to the doctor the other day and I was getting a shot. And when I was younger, I was so like I was not afraid of shots. I would look at the needle like I did not care, and I found myself like wincing and being afraid of the shot. And so the doctor, she's a very wise doctor, and we were kind of talking a little bit, and I was saying, I was never afraid of shots before, and now like look at me. And we were talking about as you grow older and age, how sometimes your experience brings along some fear because you kind of know you've been there and you've kind of had like life's challenges or whatever that is, versus when you're
Mhm,
younger, you're just more bold with things. And I thought about all the things that I
mhm.
used to not be afraid of that I'm more afraid of now as I'm getting older. And so I wonder if you have any insight on that, because that I think is huge for people in terms of
Yes,
making bold decisions with their career, their lives,
yes,
if
yes.
they can do that. Yeah.
Yes. So here I go again. In my book, I write about this. I write about what can happen as you get older. You might develop what I call a negative dominant belief based on a challenge, even a trauma. I mean, and you have a reason for it. I don't like diminish that it's there for a good reason, but after a while, it's not productive. It kept you safe at one point. So I tell a story about how I was out to dinner with my family, and I went to the restroom, and I was in the stall, and I looked over by the toilet paper, and somebody had written Lynn plus men who don't love her. And I looked at that and I thought, oh my gosh, this woman has a negative dominant belief. And I almost was going to write underneath it, Lynn plus men who she keeps choosing because she has a negative dominant belief that she hasn't really repaired and mended. Like, I'm joking, but, and I thought, so many of us have this. Like, we're afraid to do something and we associate it as a trigger. We have all of this negative evidence collecting. We become negative evidence. This always happens to me. I can never. That's when you know you have a negative dominant belief. And in fact, because I coach people, if somebody comes to me and they're feeling an overwhelming sense of depression or anger or, whatever it is, anxiety, I kind of hunt for their always and never, a permanent and pervasive belief that they have. So I help them to track that down and figure out how that is, and then work like almost like a lawyer on the stand to dispute their fear and to dispute that this always or never, because it's very rare there's an always or never. I never say there's never an always or never, because then I'm using the word never, but it's very rare. And then one of my favorite tool that I have in the book is I have people do a life review, and I have different things for life reviews, but one of my favorites is chronological mapping. Okay. And this is when you take this long piece of butcher paper that just kind of rolls out. But if you don't have butcher paper, you could tape 8.5 by 11, together. Then you draw this really long line across it. And this is going to be your life. And then you start putting in little dots that represent like inciting incidents, like important parts of your life. First fell in love, first had heart trampled on, first job loss, first, $10,000 when I lost 50,000. Like, you write it all down and then you look at it. And then you realize, because you're not done your life yet, God willing, when you're doing this, there's going to still be more line going. And the first thing that happens when you visually see that, because people that have had a very traumatic experience, they start to feel like this has overwhelmed their life. And I believe nothing is everything. The part cannot be greater than the whole. And people think this is what my life is when my father left me, or and these are tragedies, and these are traumas even, when I miscarried, but you don't, and sort of maybe what you're saying, if your pain, you turn your pain into purpose, if you're too much in that mindset of, I am my miscarriage, I am my father leaving me. No, you have to see your chronological mapping to see that this is just part of it. And then you start to look for the pattern and the lessons. Aristotle, the purpose of your life is to learn the lessons that help you to grow into your highest possible self. And you see, how did this help me to zigzag here? How was this a gift? How was it an assignment? And then you start to see that there's more runway that you have left. That's why some people, when they hear I wrote a book about death, they think I'm a death doula, an end of life doula. I'm not an end of life doula. I'm a middle of life doula. I'm a beginning of life doula. While there's still runway left to make the changes you need to make, you can still make it now. And this is what the chronological mapping helps you to see, the patterns and what you're supposed to learn, and then get excited about the rest of that runway.
Yeah, actually, that's such a great exercise because not only, you can tell people to think about your past experiences and how it helped you today, but I think really, sit down, get it out, write it down, and try, not only the negative things, but the positive,
Yes,
and be, someone who can, as best as you can objectively look at those incidents and see like how does it led you here, right? Like all those things created you to be here today. And so I love that the idea is looking forward is that you hopefully have more time
yes,
to do the things you want to do or to change or to evolve.
exactly, exactly. And I have another tool that people tend to really enjoy because it's visual. I think visual tools really help a lot because a lot of this talk about death feels so abstract, you know. So I wrote about this on Substack. I have a column there that I call I'm the stand-up philosopher because I like talking about philosophy, but with humor. I'm supposedly funny, unless you talk to my 14-year-old son who doesn't think I'm funny at all. And then I tell him Jon Stewart thought I was funny because I got a blurb from Jon Stewart, and he
Nice.
says, "Who?"
Right.
I'm like, okay, exactly. You don't know who Jon Stewart is, so. Anyway, I digress. So, this is what I call my mortality marble monthly jar. Okay. So, a couple of years ago, I did the math and I added up how many months I have left to live if I live to 100. I'm optimistic. My son actually asked me to live to 200, but I bargained him down to 100 and he accepted my counter offer. So, and I think, I forgot because this was a couple of years ago. I think I had like 478 months left to live. And when you say that out loud, it's like, it's a wake up, let me tell you. Oh, it just doesn't sound like much.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how many, what, calories there are in a muffin. I don't even think a big muffin. It's like, so I bought the marbles and I put it in this marble jar. And then I bought an empty jar to sit next to it. And I have it in my kitchen actually. And every month I take out a marble and I hold it up. It's a piece of my life. It represents a piece of my life. And I look at it and I think, how did I spend this piece of my life? What did I do last month? I do it in the morning over coffee. And then I journal about it. Now, the first time you do it, you're probably going to be like a little disappointed in yourself. Like, what did I do this month? I don't think I did much of anything, right? And then you like plunk it in the jar. But now you know that next month, the first of that next month, you're going to have to be accountable for how you spent that little piece of your life. Now you're going to start to live a little differently, right? So you're going to look at the jar and go, well, and then you're even going to get smart with yourself and go, oh, what am I going to plan ahead for my goals for next month? It's going to happen automatically, whether you like it or not, because you know you have to report to yourself. So you start to think, oh, I know, I'm going to make this the month that I blah, 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 and you make up something like that. And knowing that you're going to have to remove that marble keeps you very accountable to embracing your core values, to like having meaningful relationships and meaningful experiences, all of that. So,
Yeah. It's like part of me really likes and loves that, and the part of me is like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'd be sad watching it go
well,
away each month.
what happens? You then almost have a memory jar in the other jar because you're like, oh, there was the month that I went to, Paris with my partner, or there was the month that, whatever it is. And you start to look at it differently. The other thing that happens, another side effect is I have my jars in my kitchen and it makes me aware, oh my gosh, I want to live as long as possible. I better not eat that ice cream. Like it actually helps me
So you can
keeping it
take
in the
better care of yourself. No, that makes sense. I mean, I just think, so much of us are on these journeys. They're all different. We're all different. So we're gonna, even if we experience the same thing, it's gonna feel different. We're gonna take away different things from it, and ultimately, fulfillment seems to be what we should be striving for, and not necessarily, I was going to say growth, but not in a productive way. It's not like you need to be productive and do all the things, because a lot of things that we're talking about is more like you don't have to fill your jar or take the, say you accomplish something by working harder, by getting that raise. I mean, that'd be great, but I think what we're talking about more is how do you, is it more quality time, is it finding a hobby that you really enjoy to do, what lights you
Yes.
up, and I think that's the kind of stuff that
Yes.
creates that life
And
we
get
want.
yourself excited about it. Get yourself excited about what you're going to do with your marbles, you know. So when you take them out and you look at it, you're like, yes, I did that. So,
I love that. Okay, Karen, please tell people. So I want you to tell everyone the name of your book again and where they can get it, and then where they can find more about your work and the things that you do.
okay. My book is called You're to Die for Life. And then the subtitle, just to, explain what it is, how to maximize joy and minimize regret before your time runs out. So you're to die for life. And I have a website called you'retodieforlife.com. Uh, and my name is Karen Salmansohn, and everybody mangles my last name, and they're always going Salmonson. I'm always saying, not salmon, not salmon. So I have a main website with all my other books and everything that I do. called notsalmon.com, like notthefish.com. So it's easy to remember. And then my Instagram is not salmon. My Facebook is not salmon. Even my Substack, the URL is substack.com/not salmon. So pretty much everything not salmon. And then my book is sold everywhere books are sold.
Well,
So,
we will link all of that in the episode show notes so people can get the book and follow up with you. But this was so insightful and great. So thank you once again, or again, for coming on the show.
oh, thank you. This was fun to talk about with you. Thank you for having me here.